Let me start with Mayo. Mayo said, quote, look, once those guys cross the white lines, there's nothing I can do for them. So Mayo said, once the players get out onto the field, as a coach, there's absolutely nothing I can do for those guys. I asked on Twitter, making a joke, can I coach next week then? Can I coach next week? Can our friend KMV can KMV coach next week? If there's nothing that a coach can do once the game starts to help your team once they're on the field, then why do we even have a coach? Why even have a head coach? What's the point of having him standing on the sidelines? There's nothing you can do. There's nothing. Now, of course, there's one way to look at what Jerod is saying, and that's players have to make plays. Jerod can't make plays on the field for his players, and that is the truth. No coach can actually make the play on the field. Eventually, the players have to take what they've been taught, go onto the field, and make the plays. But here's the problem with Mayo saying what he said publicly after that game yesterday. The other way that you can read that is everything out there is on this football team. We do our job on the sidelines. It's their responsibility when they get on the field to make those plays. In essence, Mayo is throwing the entire team under the bus by saying what he said. He lumps everybody together and he throws them all under the bus by saying, hey, once they cross those white lines, I can't do anything about it. He's pointing the finger at the players by saying what he said. Like, even if it's the truth, he's throwing the guys under the bus. Right? When he says, hey, when they cross the white lines, there's really nothing I can do about it. Everything out there is on them. When they fail on the field, when they cross the white lines and they fail, that's on them. There's also some things that the head coach can do to impact what's happening on the field. There are things that Jerod Mayo can do to help his team when they're out there. He can do things after they cross the white lines that could make them better. Let me ask you, are the guys in the right spots? Are they lined up correctly? You as a coach can get them lined up correctly. Number two, you can change guys' responsibilities. If somebody is not working, doing something, then you can change their responsibility on the field. If Kyle Duggar is having trouble with motion, guess what? You can pull Kyle Duggar for a couple of series. I know he's a captain. I know he's making money. But when he's atrocious, you can take him off the field and you can roll out Jonathan Jones, Del Pettis, and Jalen Hawkins. You can try Marte Mapu at safety. I'm not telling you it's a great, plan or it's a great option, but you can make that change. You can absolutely make that change. So what's happening on the field as you see it, when one of your guys is as bad as Duggar was yesterday, you can pull him for a series and do something about it, Jerod. You can pull Trey Jacobs before you pulled him in the late fourth quarter. If you don't have a problem playing City So late in the fourth quarter, then you shouldn't have a problem playing City So for a couple of series earlier in the game to see if Jacobs can get his mind right. So there are things that the coach can do after the guys cross the white lines. You can help DeMarcus Covington more. You can look at what's happening on the field and say, okay, we're not going to go with what we've been going with defensively anymore because the last two series have gone terrible. Put your guys in position on the field to make better plays. Your job isn't just practice. It's not just you practice during the week and then the game starts and you go, it's not how it works. Yes, a lot is on the players. Yes, they need to be better. Yes, they're not talented. They're not a very talented football team. But these people that exist, and I've seen them, and I know some of them are in the chat right now. My guy, Peter Jacoby, I'm off my rocker. It was on them. Peter, when you have a lack of focus like this football team has, that's on the coaching staff. They're going into the game not focused. When Kyle Duggar is completely lost, yes, that's partially on Duggar, but it's also the coaching staff. not disciplining him enough and not saying, Kyle, get your head out of your tuchus. Like we can't sit here and just say that the lack of talent is why you're down 24-0. You're down 24-0 in the second quarter. You got beat 24-0 in that second quarter yesterday because you were outplayed, yes, but because you were also outcoached. You were thoroughly outcoached. Just like DeMarcus Covington was thoroughly outcoached against the Rams. I'm not asking this team to win 10 games. I'm not even asking them to win 7 games. I had them winning 5 games. But when you see what you saw yesterday, the coaches hold some responsibility for that. And when the head coach comes out and he says, oh, well, when they cross the white lines, there's nothing I can do, he's wiping his hands clean of what happened on the field. He's taking zero accountability of what happened on the field when he says that. And I know there were other times when he said, I got to coach better. That's on me. Okay, great. Then just say that and leave it at that. Just leave it at that and say, we got to coach better. We got to play better. Next question. How about this? How about when you're a head coach and your team is struggling and your team needs a little bit of life? How about you go for it more often on 4th down and short? How about that? Doesn't the coach have responsibility when it comes to that? Can't the coach help out the offense? Can't Jerod Mayo help out the Patriots last week when it's 4th and 2 at the Rams 2-yard line and you decide to kick a field goal instead of going for it? That's a coach's decision. That's not on the players. That's a coach's decision. So don't sit here and tell me that the coach can't do anything to help those guys after they cross the white lines, because they certainly can. And it's a cop-out. It's what it is. I'm not telling you that everything that happens on the field is Mayo's fault. Of course, the players deserve some responsibility. But when you're the head coach and you say, once you cross those white lines, good luck. I mean, it's absolutely brutal to say that publicly. Can you make adjustments sooner to help accentuate your team's strengths and hide your weaknesses? Can you do that? That would help your guys when they cross the white lines. When you're sitting back and not making adjustments until halftime, that's a problem. If your players are not playing well enough, why is it? Is it because of lack of talent? Is it because they're having terrible communication? If it's communication, that's on the coaching. If they're blowing tackles because their tackle fundamentals suck, that's on the coaching. I know it's context. I know it's nuance. And I know we don't love dealing with that. But you share the responsibility when it's that bad. When you have a second quarter like we saw, you share that responsibility. Not everything is on the players when they're out there. They have enough talent to not get blown out 24-0 in a quarter. They have enough talent to compete against Jacksonville in London, especially after you go up in that game. How about when you decide to move Mike Onwenu back to right tackle before the Tennessee game, and you have Layden Robinson out there at right guard, and Layden Robinson gets his ass handed to him by Jeffrey Simmons? Is that on Layden Robinson because he crossed the white lines and he didn't do a good enough job? Or is that on the coaching staff for having a brain cramp or whatever you want to call it and actually putting Robinson out there to start against Jeffrey Simmons? How much is on the staff that these guys can't focus? It's a team-wide problem. Jalen Polk has had trouble focusing. The offensive line has had trouble focusing. Kyle Duggar has had trouble focusing. Marcus Jones had trouble focusing at times. If it was one dude, okay. But when you have multiple guys not focusing and making simple mistakes, that falls on the coaching staff. Again, if you're not coaching it, you're allowing it to happen. Then Mayo talks with the media. I don't think he made it much better. Mayo said this, quote, I think the team has definitely gotten better. You take the Miami game out and look at the last 4, we've done a lot of good things. Now we know that the NFL can come down to one play. Here's something that bugs me. You don't take the Miami game out. It's like, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Like, you can't take the Miami game out. It's like when Jerod said, going back several weeks ago, if it wasn't for the 2 big runs, I forget what team they faced. You all might remember. But it's about the first, you take out those 2 huge runs, and our run defense was pretty good. You can't take out the 2 huge runs. The 2 huge runs were part of the game. You can't take it, you can't take the worst game out of the 4 and to act like it doesn't exist and go, yeah, but look at the other 3. It's not how this works, especially when the worst game out of the 4 was the last one that you played, the one that you just played, because you're supposed to be improving as the season goes on. I mean, that's crazy. It's ridiculous for Mayo to say to the media today, the team's gotten better. You take the Miami game out. Jerod, you can't take the Miami game out, my man. You can't take the Miami game out. You just can't eliminate the worst game. And by the way, do you think LA, do you think the game against the Rams, you think your football team played well against the Rams, Jerod? I don't think your football team played great against the Rams. Oh, and it's nice because let's look at the last 4 games. So yesterday, not good. The Rams, you weren't very good. The other 2 games, I guess the games that Jerod wants to hang his hat on, were against the Tennessee Titans and the Chicago Bears. Tennessee, one of the worst teams in football, along with you. And they were playing their backup quarterback, by the way, Mason Rudolph. And Chicago, before they fired their offensive coordinator, when their offense was an absolute mess. So you're going to use those 2 games as proof that your team is getting better? Did your team really get better, or did you just play other bad teams? I mean, some of the stuff that is said is just, it's bananas. It's banana land. To come out and say, hey, yeah, everything outside of the Miami game, if you just eliminate that Miami game, awesome. If you eliminate the Bill Buckner play back in '86, the Red Sox might have won the World Series. Just eliminate that play. Unfortunately, that play happened. And we had to deal with the curse for another, 26 years or whatever the hell, 28 years. 20 years. I don't know. My math's terrible. You know what I'm saying. It's absolutely brutal.